when it comes to community service, the Grand Strand banks on this morning's guest. Who is he? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Stevens Floor Covering Center on the frontage road in Myrtle Beach next door to the Sun News. We're focused on community service. And we're visiting with the community servant, Nick Sherfesee.
Good morning,
the market president with First Reliance Bank. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Greg. It's great to be up and out this morning.
I know, early on a Wednesday
Yes,
morning.
sir.
How does that feel to be the market president for First Reliance Bank, Nick, since last April? A lot going on, April of 07.
Really exciting and interesting times we're living in. And
Right.
we've done a great job in getting our franchise started here on the Grand Strand, and we're looking forward to great things to come with First Reliance.
Well, a lot of bankers recently on the show, a lot that are involved in a lot of great community service. Jay Huggins was with us last Thursday talking about the Grand Strand Family YMCA and all the activities that he's been involved in up there and all the great volunteers. Later this week, Scott Plyler will be with us here at Stevens Floor Covering Center on Friday, talking a little about actually forming a bank and, the launch of South Atlantic Bank, something you've been involved in many times in the past, I believe down in Florida, helping do as the president of startup banks down there.
Did a couple of them down there.
Is that right,
Yeah.
Nick? Banking's in your blood.
43 years.
That is insane. You're not even 43.
Thank you very much.
Wow, you have kept your youth, Nick.
Yeah.
I would say you're not 43 until I saw what year you entered South Carolina.
1961.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
To join as a cadet there, I guess, is
At the Citadel, right. I did 4 years at the Citadel, and they were the 4 most interesting, trying, difficult, and happy times of my life.
What was that like for a guy coming from Philadelphia?
It was inbred. My father was a 1929 Citadel graduate, and I didn't have too much choice, but I also knew a good bit about the Citadel before I got there.
Right.
So it wasn't all that much of a shock.
Had you visited the Citadel much growing up? I mean, did your dad bring you all down?
I did. As a matter of fact, in 1957, General Mark Clark, who was the president of the Citadel at the time, started the Citadel Summer Camp for Boys for prospective cadets that wanted to find out what the Citadel was like. And I was in the very first class of that, and went one summer and I was hooked.
Wow.
Couldn't wait to get back.
When you think about that first year in 1961, did you ever think, golly, I want to get out of here? I mean, actually, a summer camp 4 years earlier versus that, or did you say, this is for me, this is the life that I want to live?
Well, the second day I was there, I called my mom and said, get me out of here.
So you thought it, at least, yes.
Then I wrote my father a letter a couple weeks later and said, Dad, I'm sorry I let you down, but please, I'm leaving.
Oh, no.
But
you stuck it out.
It was difficult, but it was the most memorable year. It was wonderful.
How exciting. Well, a lot going on here at Stevens Floor Covering Center. You can hear, even they got a lot going on early on a Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., but it is a great, have you been in here before?
I have.
Oh, that's right. You were with us about a year and a half ago when we filmed here, focused on the March at Dimes and all the amazing activities. You had just rotated off the board, I believe, as the chairman, the founding chairman of the Horry County Division of the March at Dimes, and of course a lot still happening with the March at Dimes.
The March at Dimes just continues to grow and expand, and it's such a wonderful organization. The board has really grown.
Right.
We have a lot of new leadership on the board, and some very exciting people that I'm just thrilled to be associated with, and I'm really, really glad to see everything that they're doing. We have several events coming up right now.
Right, yes. We want to get into those. Crystal Hummer, Colleen Sweat, 2 of the great folks that travel throughout the PD area and here in Horry County.
Well, they run such a huge geographic area.
Right.
And they do it with just the 2 of them. They can't do it without the volunteers, and that's why I'm so excited about our local board.
Oh, yeah.
And we've had a couple folks step up in the last couple years that weren't even on the radar screen when we first started the board. Namely, the great job that Ryan Swaim did with the, they call it March for Babies now.
Oh, yeah, the March for Babies.
And Ryan did a great job with that. And Rigby Wilson has come on board and has done a great job. He's heading up the Signature Chefs auction this year.
Right.
And Gary Bradham with Ally Management
Right.
is going to be heading up the March for Babies next year.
Is that right? That's tremendous.
Right.
That is tremendous. I wasn't familiar with who was going to be taking on. Of course, Ryan had come in under Dennis Wade's tutelage.
Right.
Great tutelage to follow after his back-to-back years as big gangbuster numbers there for what was then Walk America, now the March for Babies.
Well, I think Ryan did a pretty good job. In the very beginning, he was a little bit concerned about it being overwhelming, but this last year was $290,000.
290, almost $300,000.
Almost $300,000 that was raised this last April.
Out at Coastal Carolina University, which has really turned out to be a great venue,
Oh, it's
Nick.
a perfect venue for it. I would have never thought that it would have been so great, but you know, the university has gone out of their way to accommodate us, and Coach Dave Bennett has been such a big part of our program out there.
Our honorary chairman.
Yes, sir.
And he really is our honorary chairman. Everyone, all the volunteers, but all the folks who receive the benefits throughout the community, both on prematurity, some of the parents and the children receive those benefits. He really is our honorary chairman and our football coach.
And I think, you know, Dave is just like everything else that he's done. He only does it wholehearted, 100% full force, and he makes no bones about it. This is his thing, and his team is in support of it. The school's in support of it, and we couldn't be happier than having Coach Bennett as part of our team.
Absolutely. Well, of course, even though, as you know, the bulk of our viewers are in the PD and southeastern North Carolina, I want to highlight a couple of big events coming up for the Horry County Division. The PD Division, as you said, very large territory, and they have walks up in Marlborough County and down in Lake City and throughout the PD. And obviously your bank, First Reliance Bank, is centered right there in the PD, but has been expanding all over the state into the Midlands and the Low Country, and now with you last year here into the Strand, and really growing. But at the same time, if we can highlight a couple of the big events coming up in the fall and in the spring with the March it On.
Well, we'll go ahead and start with the next one's coming up on September the 3rd. At the Crown Reef Conference Center. This Community Servant of the Year Award will be given to Woody Crosby.
Oh, great. With the Jordan Properties.
Correct.
And Crown Reef Resort.
Correct. And it'll be at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I'd like to ask all of Woody's friends and associates and all of the folks that he knows and everything that he's done on the Grand Strand with the Hospitality Association and the Chamber of Commerce and everything else, to please come out and support Woody in this great cause. It'll be at 7 o'clock in the morning, so it'll be an early morning, but we'll get you back to work by 9.
At the Crown Reef Resort.
At the Crown Reef Resort.
And that's a very powerful ceremony when you've got an ambassador baby oftentimes there, family members who talk about it. Woody has a powerful story in general, obviously, with his own life that's not only related to the March at Arms, but in many other ways, and a great Community Servant Award recipient.
It truly is. And, you know, we've had such great recipients in the past, and this just continues that great lineage of people that are very deserving. You know, Myrtle Beach is such a wonderful place, and what a bunch of great volunteers. I've never lived anywhere that people volunteer and continue to volunteer and support our community like this place.
Well, you know, I think, were you not the chairman of the board the year that the Community Servant, I think it may have been called something else in the past, when that kicked off, Nick? It seems like the Mary, I was trying to remember the Mary Lee Hudson's, the folks she was working with at the time that got that award early on.
The first, I think it was with Ellen Varnador originally.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And our first recipient was David Douglas from Gallopin's Ferry.
Yes. And Danny and Billy possibly.
Danny and Billy, and then Edgerton Burroughs and his brother. And, I mean, it's just been a really great group, and I'm really thrilled to see Woody get in that line. Of course, when Nelson and Nelson Jackson. And,
and Dorothy Anderson and Shirley.
Of
folks that have been recognized all over the place, but from the March at Arms, very special. There's another event coming up in the fall. I believe you said in November.
My favorite one.
Yes.
The Signature Chef's Auction. And when people who know me and look at me say, yeah, you've been hanging around that Signature Chef's Auction a lot. It's a great event. It's going to be held on the 3rd of November, which is a let me check, Monday.
Okay,
and,
great.
It'll be held at the convention center.
Good.
And it starts at about 6 and will end relatively reasonable hour,
Sure.
10:30, 11 o'clock.
Right.
And it is really a wonderful evening.
Oh, it is.
We have the best chefs around the Grand Strand.
Right.
Wonderful auction items, live and silent.
Oh, yeah.
And just a great opportunity to visit with some of the greatest people I know.
Right. We have so enjoyed that event in the past, and obviously the Herald's been promoting that event year after year. We sure plan on being there in full force.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
We do appreciate everything the Herald has
Oh,
done.
yeah. No, a lot of great groups obviously wrap around that event, and folks need to be out there on Monday the 3rd. If a viewer needs to get off to work now or get family out of the house, Nick, what's the best phone number for someone to call to learn about these two events?
488-DIME.
488-DIME.
Yeah,
I love it.
488-3463.
Okay, 488-DIME. And that is very important. Obviously,
Right.
there's a national website, marchofdimes.com, but if they want to learn about these events as well as events in the PD, as far away as Bennettsville, or activities in Florence or throughout Dillon and Marion counties, other walks.
Crystal and Colleen will be more than glad to talk with you about it, and they would certainly like to have your involvement with the March of Dimes. You know, Greg, out of all the money that we receive from all of the hard work and the donations of the folks who support us, almost 93 cents on every dollar goes back in South Carolina to programs to help babies. And that's a pretty darn efficient organization.
Right.
We do need the help and support of your viewers.
Oh, yeah.
And we really would look forward to any calls they have or any interest they have, find out how they can help, how they can support, or how to even come to some of these events.
Right.
Please call that number 488-DIME.
Right, and even for viewers who may not have the financial wherewithal to help out, there are always volunteer needs. As you said, with 2 staffers serving a multi-county area, there are truly volunteer needs in all the communities.
Right. I'll talk to you about a group of people that really don't have any money themselves that have been instrumental in raising thousands and thousands of dollars every year. If you take a look at our school children at Forest Brook Elementary, I think last year they raised $33,000.
Wow. $33,000
these
at
are
Forest Brook
kids.
Elementary alone. Yeah.
They're going out knocking on doors and asking for nickels, dimes, quarters, dollars,
Right.
whatever they can get.
Right.
And so you don't have to be wealthy to do this. I mean, you have to understand the cause, and the cause is to help prevent premature birth, birth defects, and early childhood death.
Oh, yeah.
And these are our kids, and it doesn't discriminate. Everybody can think of an instance somewhere in their life, in their family's life, where they have been impacted with infant problems and issues.
Right.
And March of Dimes research has gone a long way to help tackle those issues. So we need your help.
Absolutely.
Right.
Those are great words, Nick. Thank you for sharing that. Well, of course, the March of Dimes is very near and dear to your heart. There's a lot of other amazing groups. I was fascinated going through, and of course, it was back in January of '04 when you were with us in the studio, not long after we kicked off Carolina People. Nick, I remember there at Fox 43 over on the former air base, and that great quote, "Some people have hobbies. My hobby is community service." That was back in January of '04, sitting there, January 21st of '04, when you shared that with us, and it reminded me how special that is. But I don't think I ever knew about the incredible numbers of groups that you're either president of, past president of, treasurer, secretary, board member. Even recently, a couple of groups that you've been real active with, Waccamaw Housing and Home Alliance, Inc. Share with viewers a little bit about those two groups and what originally got you involved with them.
I've been involved with Waccamaw Housing since 1994.
Wow.
So it's been a long time. Waccamaw Housing is a 501c3 nonprofit that was formed for the purpose of providing housing for the chronically and persistently mentally ill homeless. And we had a situation that we identified here on the Grand Strand, but it's pretty much nationwide. But one of the unique issues to this part of the world is that people would come here looking for jobs and they could find them. But they were on medication or needed some help for their mental illnesses. But South Carolina laws will not permit prescriptions to be filled across state lines. If the people came here and they didn't have an address, they needed their prescriptions, they couldn't get them, and they just spiraled.
Quickly spiraled.
Right. This was kind of a rescue thing that was done in conjunction with the mental health center.
Right.
And we went ahead and decided to form this group to very quietly go out, get some government funding, and seek to find safe, affordable housing for these people.
Right.
Long story short, it took us from 1994 until 1998 before we had our first person in housing. We had a very difficult time getting that whole system set up.
Right.
But once we did, I think we have served over 250 families.
Is that right? In the last 10 years?
And
yes.
one of the wonderful things, some of the folks literally cannot get out and do what they need to do because of their disability. However, some folks, many folks have. So the payback is we find them safe, affordable housing, provide them the mental health care that they need, provide them job training, whatever, and get them back in the workforce so they can become productive citizens.
Right.
Of the 250 people that we have served, we've graduated about 125.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That
So,
is tremendous, Nick.
we've done that very, very efficiently, very quietly, and it's a ministry that many of us believe in.
That is tremendous, Nick. How did you first get active in that back in '94? That's right after you arrived here in the area.
This is a banking question, actually. I'm not going to mention the name because a lot of people know her, but this person was on the board of Waccamaw Housing at the time, and I walked in the door as the new market president, and they were looking for some help on their board.
Right.
And she called and says, look, we have a rather substantial deposit with your bank, and I think it would be in your best interest to come over here and protect it. So we would like for you to join our board.
Wow.
But I had some experience with mental retardation issues in Gainesville, Florida, where I came from, where I was on the board of an ARC.
That's great.
And so I had some knowledge of housing for people with mental challenges.
And Waccamaw Housing tied in to some degree indirectly with Home Alliance and your involvement as the current president of Home Alliance.
It did. As a matter of fact, a few years later, in conjunction with the city planning department, it was determined that there were needs for all sorts of homeless housing, and we had a lot of agencies out there.
Yes.
And we weren't all necessarily communicating.
Right.
So we formed the Home Alliance Incorporated, which includes many of the homeless housing providers. Waccamaw Housing was one.
Right. Street Reach.
Street Reach was one. Myrtle Beach Haven, CASA, New Dawn, New Day. All these people that are touching homeless in various and sundry situations. And one of our first projects was the Alliance Inn.
Right, yes, there on Mr. Joe White Avenue.
And across the street at Swansgate.
Right. That's tremendous.
Right.
So it really made a difference there on 10th or Joe White Avenue.
All right. And our last one was Pam's Corner. It's now called Balsam Place, which was the old Pam's Corner Motel out on 501.
Right.
And that's a housing for men.
Right. That is critical, Nick.
Yeah.
Golly, you think the homeless population is larger here than folks may imagine?
I think so. I mean, the people are living in the woods. They're coming down here for work, and most folks can get a job.
Most folks can get a job.
Can get a job in the summertime in
Right.
particular, but they can't necessarily find a place that they can afford to live.
Right.
Particularly in the summertime. In the wintertime, they might be able to rent some motel rooms, but in the summer, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And if they have no resources, it becomes increasingly difficult.
Golly, Nick, that is tragic. Well, I'm thankful. I don't know if folks can support those groups directly? I know we didn't review the phone numbers for getting in touch with those groups, but surely there's ways they could go straight to Street Reach or go to
they could go straight to
Kitchen
any of those organizations,
Right.
or they could call me.
Right.
My phone number is 843
Right.
449 5900.
Great, great.
Or they could contact Cliff Rudd at the City of Myrtle Beach.
Excellent. Great. Absolutely.
Or any one of the program directors. But I would just make the phone call and see what we can do. Waccamaw Housing, CASA, they all have their own fundraising. Street Reach, they
Right.
all have their own funding sources and fundraising. It might not be a bad idea to go ahead and give me a call so
Sure.
we can go ahead and let everybody know.
449-5900. Just
Correct.
ask for you and
Correct.
say, I want to help out one of these groups.
Absolutely.
That is wonderful. I also see, Nick, you're real involved with the Knights of Columbus. What is that?
Knights of Columbus is a Catholic fraternal organization.
Oh, great. Good.
And one of our charges is charity. And we raise money all over the Grand Strand selling Tootsie Rolls.
Is that right?
You know, we do all
It's
sorts
early
of
on a Wednesday morning. You could
yeah.
probably perk us up. Yeah.
going out to have little golf tournaments and things like that.
Right.
And whatever we can do to raise money for the poor, the indigent, people who need help, scholarships for children in our Catholic schools,
Right.
and things like that.
That is wonderful. Knights of Columbus, that's been around a long time. I see
Yes.
you've got a number of different positions with them throughout the state and here in the area.
National, it was started by Father McGivney. It was almost over 100 years ago now, up in Connecticut. He was an Irish priest who, at the time, with all the immigrants coming in, they needed an organization to support the widows and children
Right.
of men that were dying and whatever. And Knights of Columbus was formed originally to do that.
I was fascinated to see, Nick, one other thing that I bet a lot of folks didn't know about you is that you serve as the board chairman for Horry and Marion counties for the past decade for the United States Selective Service, which other folks know as
The draft board.
the draft
You didn't
board.
even know we had one, did you?
I didn't in Horry and Marion counties. You're always ready, I guess.
Well, it's the last line of defense, and hopefully we'll never have to institute the draft.
Yeah.
But it has never been disbanded. A lot of folks refer to it as the former Selective Service, but it's still intact. We do meet a couple times a year. We have training, and like I said, hopefully we'll not have to use it. There have been a couple times in the last few years where it's been a little tense, where we
Right.
thought perhaps it might be used.
Right.
But it's not the old draft board that we knew from Vietnam. It has changed a lot. There are some interesting things, like there are no longer any student deferments.
Is that right?
Right. I mean, so things like that. And even in some cases, women can be drafted
that right?
in
Yeah.
case of national emergency,
Right.
mainly medical
Sure.
or people that have translation skills.
You would be persona non grata in a lot of rooms as board chairman of that group, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's so critical for America.
Well, I think it's my patriotic duty.
Right. This is not a banking relationship.
No, not at all. Not at all. As a matter of fact, I got involved with that with a gentleman by the name of Stu Struthers. I don't know if you know Stu or not.
No.
He's a retired Coastal Carolina professor, and he came to me one day and he said, "I want you on the board."
Good.
And that
In
was years ago.
'97, Nick. Yeah, more than a decade
Right,
ago.
right. So then when Stu retired, I took over his slot. But we have representatives from all over the Grand Strand. There's 5 of us locally, and then there's a couple from Marion that are also on our board
Great.
with us.
That's great. Well, you have done so much, Nick. We're only on page 1 of the many groups you're involved in, and of course seeing your activities with the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce and with Leadership Grand Strand. I think I remember the year you were, I believe Terry Cooper's year, Greg Hembry, I'm not sure if you were in that year.
I was in that year.
Seeing that picture up probably on your wall in your former office there, and seeing that up there, and all the folks, you really stayed active with Leadership Grand Strand.
That was one of the most wonderful things I ever did here, and that's one of the things. Andy Bach charged us when we graduated. She says, "Okay, you've gone through this program, and if you don't use it, then we've wasted our time."
Right.
And she gave us a charge to go out and serve the community. And I think that if you take a look at that class, there was a lot of very notable people, myself excluded, in
Clearly,
that group.
you took the charge and ran with it. I'm sorry we've run out of time, Nick. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank
Great
you.
being with you.
All right.
Stay tuned to a little more Carolina People with Nick Sherfesee, the market president for First Reliance Bank, coming up next. Not to take anything away from other guests on the show, but they always come in here prepared, handing out phone numbers for the many nonprofit groups they work with and are dedicated to. We're sitting here with Nick Sherfesee. Of course, he's promoting 488-DIME, but he's also saying, give me a call, track me down. If you want to get involved with Waccamaw Housing, if you want to support the Chamber of Commerce, if you want to wrap around the March of Dimes, track me down at First Reliance Bank. Find me. 449-5900 is a simple number, he said, and he said that because he works for a group that wraps around his many community commitments. As I said, just here on page 1, there's another 2 or 3 pages after that with so many of the groups that he's been involved with in the past. We ran out of time. We weren't able to highlight that just a couple of years after he arrived, he was recognized as one of the Volunteers of the Year, a finalist, but still in the running for the very prestigious Volunteer of the Year here in the area. A few years after that, a finalist again for another Volunteer of the Year award, and then highlighted by that special name he mentioned, Ann DeBach, in 2006, when he actually won the Ann DeBach Leadership Award. There's a reason he picked it up. There's a reason he's making a difference every day. It was instilled at an early age, and he's going to pass it on to others. Take the time to meet Nick Sherfesee. He's a great guy. Nick, thanks for being with us this morning. Absolutely.